Do you wish you could get virtual attendees to turn their cameras on? Is engagement the number one issue on your virtual meetings? Do you want your meeting to be the most engaging virtual meeting? Well, welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. In this podcast, we'll talk to the top people around the world in virtual meetings and give you, the listener, the best ideas to host engaging virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, let's welcome your host, the author of the #1 Amazon hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen. All right, welcome to another episode of Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. What a beautiful, Jesus, I can't believe it's already September. Fall is happening. Things are going on, and I'm excited. I'm about to step in an airplane later this week, head to New Orleans, where I'll be presenting at TechLearn Conference and GameCon. So two conferences that'll be in New Orleans. For those who are New Orleans savvy, please chat me your favorite restaurants to go to. I'm currently finishing my list. Speaking of restaurants, this next guest here, we've known each other for a while, bouncing around the meetings industry. She's got experience at CRG Events, Columbia Hospitality, and then Microsoft and AWS. But the most important thing is that her order is an ice grande double shot almond milk, hazelnut mocha, easy on the ice. And she is on team not pumpkin spice. Again, team not pumpkin spice. Let's welcome to the stage the one and only Mindy. Mindy, will you do us a favor? Introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Sure. My name is Mindy Bomonti. I am a Seattle-based experiential marketing and events leader. I have had the opportunity to work in both sides of the events world, both on the hospitality venue side, as well as the client side in the technology industry, working with Microsoft, AWS, and then also some smaller companies as well, Nintex, Icertis, and Chef Software. And so have had that opportunity to really learn and grow literally from the reception desk at CRG Events many a year ago, and worked my way up through that hospitality industry, learning, and I really call that my sponge time when I got to learn through observation, through volunteering and going on site, as well as working with some amazing professionals that I still remain connected with to this day, and appreciate all of the learnings that they gave to me as I grew, and then became the events leader that I am today. So I have a passion for creating memorable events that achieve the KPIs and all the success metrics and everything else that we do, but really focus on that human-centric, that engaging, developing relationships. And I put that all right on that CEO that I worked with, John Oppenheimer. I credit him for making me a very relationship-focused events person. Who wants to create those long-standing relationships that, even though it had been years since John and I had met, you, John, we still were able to bump into each other at an event and pick up and catch up right where we were, and had that memory from many years ago. So I really appreciate this opportunity to come forward and chat with you a bit. As we mentioned, I'm actually not always the biggest fan of virtual meetings, and you like that about me. So I'm looking forward to our conversation so that we can chat a bit more about what makes it a great virtual event when you do engage that, when you do take those steps.
Thank you so much for that, Mindy. All right, well, we'll refer to Oppenheimer as John O, and I'll be John C.
There we go. There we go.
In this piece, I really want to hear, like, if, there are a lot of meeting professionals who listen to this and they're in the new side, right? And you really went from receptionist to in charge. I would love to hear, if you could go back and talk to yourself in those receptionist days, what would you tell yourself, or what would you tell a new incoming meeting professional?
Sure. So I highly value when I have hired for my teams, I highly value those that have had that hospitality experience. And that could include you were a server while you were going through college or high school. It can include that you have truly worked through the hotel and convention centers and all of that. But I really appreciate when you have both sides of the coin, when you understand what it takes to produce an event on both sides. And so, to those who are new in the industry or thinking about coming into the industry, while I certainly value education and do not say, don't go there. It is something that I would really strongly recommend is find ways that you are being able to touch all of the different aspects of the hospitality and events industry, because that empathy will serve you incredibly well in all of your future iterations. The fact that I produced a number of events on a venue side and had to come up with creative solutions on the fly to respond to what a customer or client or guest was asking for in that moment. And some of that was also, I was blessed enough to be with a company that literally handed you the book, Raving Fans, on your first day and asked you to read that. It's a very easy read, still highly recommend it. So that you had that read within the first week and knew that you were empowered to create Raving Fans and continue to step forward in that. So that's something that all the way back to that EA day, those EA days, the receptionist days, I still refer back to that and think about it. And so that's what I would encourage the young folks to do, is to definitely be stepping in and be thinking about how do you create amazing stories and experiences. And then really from there, it is give yourself every opportunity to learn and be a part of every kind of event. That means volunteering at some, even if it's off the clock. I was going and helping out at every event that CRG was producing that was in the Seattle area. I was 8 to 5. I was at that front desk and helping out in the ways that I was being paid for. And then on my off time, I was usually schlepping boxes and running for coffee and just, as I mentioned earlier, being a sponge, not disturbing the events folks when they're in the midst of doing things, but noting questions to ask and come back later and ask them, why did they do this? How did they do this? Where were they thinking? What, all of those kinds of questions. And that's the other thing that I would most highly recommend.
Yeah, that event spudge is such a event sense is what I try and tell people like event sense are two things. Number one is, especially as a new person, who not to disturb, because there's so much happening in an event that if you ask a question at a wrong time, that in the wrong context, right, you really become more of an annoyance as opposed to an ad of being of service. So, that's something. And then the other thing of event sense I tell people is like, event sense will tell you when something's wrong, even if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
When you walk into a venue or something like that, and you're like, something's wrong, or you're
Yes.
looking through all your supplies, right? Something's missing. You don't know what it is yet, but your event sense is kind of like that piece there. I want to give a shout out to Tay. Tay from Portland is tuning in on LinkedIn with this. Now, Raving Fans, let me make sure. Is this Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard? Like this
Yes.
one right here?
That's it.
I
That
just
is the
did it.
book.
I have to give you a little insider part here. I recently saw Ken because Ken came on to a celebration of life for my good friend Bob Pike. And Bob Pike and Ken Blanchard worked on a company together. So Ken logged into his piece from his, he's like at a cabin right now, and gave the opening prayer for this celebration of life. So Ken Blanchard is
Oh,
still, like, for those who don't know, 1 minute manager, Raving Fans, right? Read stuff that was really accessible to people, right? Short, but had an impact, and I think
yes.
having that impact is such a key part.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to ask about this. Well, what's the biggest on the fly thing you think you've ever done?
Oh, goodness.
Right
The biggest on the fly.
here, I'll give you some stall time. Right,
Yes, please do.
one of my on the flies as a virtual person, right? I'm a virtual MC. Is that uh, we had the conference was in Atlanta, right? And I was the virtual MC here in Seattle, and we lost audio from Atlanta for 32 minutes, Mindy,
Ooh, ooh, oh no. Oh no.
in the keynote. So the first thing I did, was, of course, was come on as a virtual MC saying, hey, we lost audio from Atlanta. Let me check in with them. I'll get right back to you. So I have a direct line to the tech team. And this was their response, Mindy. It's going to be a while.
That's not the response a planner wants to hear.
Not the virtual MC who's now in charge of the room. So I did something, right? And the biggest on the fly is that I've done something called PowerPoint karaoke. Mindy, have you ever heard of PowerPoint karaoke?
I have not. I am a karaoke girl, but I have not done PowerPoint
Oh, well,
karaoke.
Mindy, you need to come join me in Lake Stevens at the Pines, where I host karaoke almost every Saturday. So,
Well, that's not very far away from me. I'll be there. I'll be
okay,
there.
definitely. That's a shout out for the Pines. I'll be there in 3 weeks, but they'll have another karaoke host this weekend. Okay, so anyways, going back to that, PowerPoint karaoke is the ability to present a slide deck without ever seeing it before, sight unseen. So I started presenting this slide deck for the next 32 minutes, not knowing any idea what's going to be on the next slide.
Ooh.
And I did it so well that the virtual audience asked two questions when the audio was restored, and then afterwards the chat was flooded going, "Oh my gosh, John, you got it 95 to 100% correct. That was amazing."
That takes some skill. That definitely takes some skill and some very good tap dancing to be able to do that.
Okay, what kind of tap dancing are you used to?
The tap shoes are always in the suitcase whenever I go on site to an event. That is for sure.
That's a great quote. That's a great quote. I'm going to put that down right now. Go ahead.
I took 1 year of tap, fourth grade.
Nice.
But I've definitely done some tap dancing in my career. I know that I've had others, but one of the ones that I can think of, and especially since we're talking about virtual events, was in 2020 when I was with Chef Software. We had like so many, we were doing all of those pivots that everybody was having to do, including moving a planned in-person conference to a virtual event. And Chef was a company that was known for their amazing Chef Conf events, that they were highly anticipated. They had a very robust and engaged community of users that really loved to come together here in Seattle each year. And so it was trying to find ways that we were still going to be coming together, even though everybody was all over the world, of course, in June of 2020. And so we had lots and lots of pivots that we were doing, but one of the ones that we had to do at the very last minute was because of the various conversations that were happening around Black Lives Matter and all of the other conversations, but specifically BLM, was that there was going to be an entertainment industry blackout on the day that we were intending to have our Chef Conf virtual concerts. And we had some incredible performers. We had Reggie Watts, all lined up. We had Mark Broussard, one of my personal favorites, and he's from that New Orleans area that you're heading off to. And then Seattle's own deep sea diver. They had already done their recordings for us, and then we're going to be joining us on Twitch live, so they'd be engaging with our attendees. And we had to make the decision to honor that entertainment industry request to shift by a day and allow for that blackout to happen, and so that they were able to step forward in the ways that they wanted to as performers and as people, and to really acknowledge and allow that to be the priority rather than trying to force our business focus into the conversation in some way. And so that was one of the ones that was on the fly. And it was a lot of conversation that had to be held, a lot of time, investment, promotion, all of those things had been done, but really finding a way to make sure that we were doing the right thing, that we were stepping forward with the integrity that everyone at Chef wanted to step forward with, while still accomplishing the business motivations that we needed to address, and allow for our entertainers to also step forward in the ways that they wanted to be authentic. And so that's one that comes to mind most readily, as we had to pivot with lots of social media and emails and various ways to let folks know, hey, it's going to be same time, same place, different day, to bring that forward.
So that was the conclusion: is just move it.
Just moved it. And it was still very successful. Everybody enjoyed it, including our performers. It was great to have them there on Twitch and engaging. And we had people asking about, what inspired music, what was the guitar that was being played in this, and all of these types of things. And again, it was so early on in the pandemic that having that opportunity to engage with folks, celebrity or not, and just understand what everybody's experience was at the time was very powerful.
Side note: did you hear about Ed Sheeran in Las Vegas?
I saw a headline. I admit I did not click.
Ed Sheeran apparently announced 1 hour before he was going to go on to Vegas that he was canceling the concert because of a load-in problem.
Oh, no.
And all right, for all of us in the events industry, we know that load-in is so important. People have no idea how many people in like 3 to 4 days before any major event, you gotta put all this stuff together for that perfect 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
But what happened where fans were out in 100-degree weather, some of them were passing out in line, and they opened the concession line, charged them for water, and then canceled the concert. So many people were unhappy. Unhappy. That's
Yeah.
right after Ed Sheeran just broke records. He broke Taylor Swift's record here in Quest Field or
That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember I saw that headline. I remember that. Yeah, that's the thing. And I have certainly had those conversations many times to help people understand, there's a perception of events being very glamorous. And sometimes there's TV shows that make it look really good. And, quite frankly, if I see an event planner cruising along in Jimmy Choos and a champagne glass in their hand, they're not really an event planner. They're a host, but they're not the event planner. The event planner is running around in Reeboks and is looking forward to their, shot of bourbon at the end of the event. Very highly anticipated at that particular point, but they're not cruising around in high heels usually.
I just, Mindy, I clocked 33,000 steps at a past event, and all of it was on concrete. And holy
Yeah.
cow, that will take
Yeah.
a toll on, especially as you get older here. That's work for the maybe for the more able. That's for
It
sure.
it really is the amount of steps, the fact that conferences, conventions, trade shows, those are construction zones, just this side of hard hat, and they are hard hat zones for a good part of the build,
Yeah.
which is a week, 2 weeks prior. We open up those doors and it looks great and the lights are up and everything is fantastic, but we are scrambling and running around and there's forklifts moving everything and you're trying to dodge out of the way of all of those types of things until moments before those doors open to our guests. So it's pretty amazing to see. Even more amazing is the way and how fast it all comes down. To be on a show floor an hour after it's closed is incredible. How quickly everything goes back to the raw space that it is, because they've got another one loading in, especially in places like Vegas, New Orleans. They're coming in again right behind you. So you don't have the time or luxury of time when you're dealing with that. But yes, those concrete floors, personally, I always try to put into my budgets that double, triple padding and carpeting and things, and try to save my booth folks, including mine, because I'm standing there too, backs and feet. But at the end of any conference, you just want to chop off your feet. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's one of the great things about virtual is that you don't have to set up all this stuff for the most part, and whatever you set up is whatever you set up in your house, and you get to eat your own food, and you get to sleep in your own bed. Those are some wonderful things. I'm curious for you, right, Mindy? Okay, so let's hear some storied opinions from you. What has to happen for you for a virtual meeting or a virtual conference to be engaging? So this is you on the attendee side.
I'm a tough one. I am an extrovert. I always joke that if you look up extrovert, you're going to see my picture right next to that description. From the day I was born, have been an extrovert. And so I am a very, very tough virtual attendee to get engaged, simply because I love and get energized by being with people, which made the pandemic years really tough. And so I still lean very heavily towards how can we find that in-person engagement? But I value the virtual component in a hybrid kind of fashion, because I know not everyone is like me. I also know that there are budget constraints, travel issues, concerns, all of those types of things that come into play. And only by offering it via virtual opportunity can you truly have that reach and stretch. And so I am a big proponent of making it hybrid and making sure that there are those abilities. To engage me in a virtual event, it's got to have this kind of engaging interaction. There
Right.
has to be, because I'm generally one that is going to be looking up at my camera. I look down a little bit, but not very much. I try to be making eye contact with those that I am talking to whenever I am on camera. And so if I am expected to be on camera, whatever's going on down here is just kind of a distraction in some ways, because I am trying to still connect with the person who's on the other side.
Yeah.
If I am not having to be on camera, then some of those visual fun things are great. I don't want death by PowerPoint ever, virtual or not. And so looking for ways that are engaging me, whether it's voting buttons, whether it is something that is truly showing me an experience or a place that I'm not able to be anytime soon, engaging conversation, questions, getting my brain going so I'm not wanting to look over at my phone or a second screen or third.
All right. Are you on team chat or team not chat?
Ooh, it depends on the type of event, really. I like the chat option when it is something that you are wanting to have questions, but you're going to have presentation first, so that you are being able to get that immediate response, but plan and think about your answer a little bit. So I do like the chat for that. I'm not always so fond of the back and forth, especially if the chat is only visible to those who are on the main stage. Then it just kind of becomes, okay, they're not as engaged because they're looking off here or there. So once again, I'm the hybrid.
Hybrid chat. Well, here, I'll give you a little help out this. How about this? How about we go to Hawaii?
Ooh, I have a vacation planned in February, so.
Oh, all the people in Hawaii. Shout out to all the people in Hawaii. We just did a fundraiser, Mindy. I don't know if you saw my social media, but we did a luau fundraiser, clocking over 25K to the Maui Food Bank and Maui Strong.
Congratulations. I did see that. We have a mutual friend in Teresa Savadago as well. And she
Oh,
also mentioned that in her social media too. So I heard about it from a couple of different sources.
yeah,
So
she's the one.
congratulations.
Thank you. She's the one who introduced us together, and so I came in and was able to help out. We were able to take that. Actually, that was a really. So Mindy's really espousing the value of hybrid. Not everyone, right? About 100 people could come to see it live, and it was great live.
Mhm.
Again, we had a live ukulele and a live Hawaiian stand-up comedian.
Oh,
And what we were able to do with it, though, Mindy, you talk about KPIs, right? You're a metrics girl. You love the
very much.
numbers. We were able to more than double. I think by the time we were done, we doubled or tripled the audience, which allowed, right, to at least to do, I think, a double in terms of the fundraising that came about at the end by producing this digitally. Many people actually bought tickets for the dinner and said, "We're just not going to show. I'm just buying the ticket to donate."
Oh,
And
wow.
then when they discovered there was a virtual option, a bunch of them clicked the button and joined up with us. And so we've had, a couple, we had more than 100 views easily of that program from all the different channels. And, you can add them all up. That was on all the usual suspects, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, which now known as X, and YouTube. And all those places all kind of pick up slightly different audience. And again, those are, I tell people all the time, key aspects of your hybrid strategy is live streaming. Live streaming is actually easier than Zoom because you can discover the stream and start watching it even for a few minutes, right? On
Yeah.
your phone, while you're traveling, while you're mobile, whatever, things like that. So speaking of which, so thank you for the examples of, especially your unique examples of what really engaging for you. Again, I'd love for you to come to my conference. We have the Engaging Virtual Meetings Conference that is October 23rd through 25th, and I would love to hear Mindy's take on it, saying, right, is this engaging for me? What I'd love to hear, Mindy, is the next piece. What do you think is the future of virtual and hybrid in the meetings industry? Because we're maybe on the end of the post-pandemic, here. Ideally, if something else doesn't restart here, which it could at any moment, people have talked about that. Uh, and I think you've seen that meetings industry now has seen the value and the possibilities of virtual. So, what is Mindy's view on virtual and hybrid in the future?
Sure. So I believe that, because I can look back and go in 2011, we were trying to do a virtual product launch when I was with a team at Microsoft. And, it was successful, but had had a crash and all sorts of really not fun things to experience as an events person, especially fairly new into the virtual. So the virtual has been coming for a long time. And so I think that the pandemic just expedited the move really into having the virtual and most especially the hybrid option. I think that a lot of people missed at various levels, missed having the interaction and engagement, but they are going to be more specific about choosing what events they're going to participate in virtually and which ones they're going to go to in person.
Right.
I think that we will see some constriction in the events industry overall in trade shows and conferences. There will
Yeah.
be choices made to either reduce the event completely or take it down to every other year, various ways that it's going to happen. But they're incredibly expensive to produce as a host, as well as to participate in as a sponsor, and for some of them even just as an attendee, to a few $1,000s to walk onto the floor. And I think that there is a little bit greater ability with that hybrid or virtual option to see, truly how much time did that person spend, what programs did they participate in or at least listen to with half an ear. All you can tell is that somebody logged in. And so there are some metrics that managers and others who are facilitating the funding for people to be participating in programs can look to. And so I think that that's going to continue and probably increase. Travel is certainly an expense that is hard to quantify sometimes unless you have a direct sales deal. And let's be honest, when you're in the enterprise space, one trip isn't necessarily going to be what seals the deal. It will be maybe that final step, or it might be the intro. It's going to take a number of touches. It's never just that one. And that can be hard to justify spending $100,000 or $1 million at an event when you can't say specifically these three multi-million dollar deals came in because of those.
Yeah.
But that being said, having the hybrid option allows for people to have choice. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot overall with the conversation around return to office, with hybrid workspace, all of those different things, people deciding to live in the mountains or on an island and still do their job. It comes back to that choice and that desire for choice. That generationally, I think as the younger generation is coming in, having that ability is more and more part of the conversation. So giving that option of, hey, you can attend in person and this is what your experience is going to be. You can attend virtually. And the hybrid option allows for those who are even on site to be able to go, great, I want to hear from this person in person because I might want to step to the mic and ask a question and be sure that I have that opportunity. But I still want to see these three speakers who are going at the same time. And so the hybrid allows for that ability to gain more content, to have that, but do it on your own time. It might be while you're sitting at the airport heading for home that you're watching what sessions that you missed or going back and rewatching. So I think that as we think about events, offering that hybrid, offering choice is going to be that necessity. And that's where virtual is going to still continue to step in and step forward and allow for those smaller companies with smaller budgets to still participate in some way. What I think will decrease, and I personally agree with, is the manufactured conference floor in a virtual space. I liked that during the pandemic. I produced a few events that had that virtual show floor, and I stand by them. But now that there is that opportunity to be back on the floors and engaging in that way, I think that stop trying to create the virtual booth or whatever. That's not of value, and instead be looking at make that part of the in-person draw. If that's the experience you want, you do need to go in person. But if what you are really looking for is the meat and potatoes content and engaging in that kind of way, then you have the virtual option.
Yeah, the expos was the one thing I think that often did not work or had a lot of feedback around it. Again, we tried lots of other things, but I do think that you hit on a key point, which is a choice for the individuals. There was somebody who was attending in person in one of these conferences, but it was at a beach resort. So at the last day, she went to the beach, logged in with her computer, watched all the education while she was on the beach, and that was of value to her, right? To be in that setting while still clocking educational hours. And so I think that that's what we want to see is those unexpected things that people do. They do them because it's fulfilling one or more needs at the same time. I think that's where the choice of in-person and hybrid will get you some of those choices. So, and the ones that you don't suspect or you don't think so, right?
Absolutely. And what better way, I mean, to be in a relaxed kind of position on the beach, your toes in the sand, beautiful view ahead of you. And
Yes.
so you don't have any stressors around you. So you're going to take in content much more willingly because you are making that choice.
Yes.
And so you're going to be more susceptible to the conversation. You're going to be more open to receiving that information. I think that that should be the new way of doing virtual events, and encourage people to be sitting on a beach
Oh, I
or
love
on a
it.
mountaintop, whatever.
I love it, Mindy, that you're bringing the science into this too, because that's really the key here. We're humans and we actually have all these multiple ways to consume information. And some of these are better, right, than the recommended way of, say, sitting in a classroom of getting this, that you know that information will stick more. Mindy, as a last closing word, if people only remembered one thing from this interview, what do you think that one thing should be?
Ooh, I would say that it is our this last conversation point, choice,
Right.
that you need to be remembering that on the other side of the screen is another human being. They are dealing with various different things in their lives, work, personal, and otherwise. And so always be thinking about that human-centric, thinking about that human that's on the other side, but giving them the choice of how they are going to receive that information. Understand that they might not be able to log in for the live stream, but they're going to be one that takes in a lot of content from you because they came back and watched the recording. They might not have chosen to go into your meeting space at the conference,
Yeah.
but they are choosing to download it later. And to think about making sure that the presentation that you give when you are doing a virtual or one that is being broadcast, even if you are on stage somewhere, that you're thinking about how to make it engaging, as well as having those key points that can easily be clipped, shared, and moved through the various ways that we have conversations these days. Think about those types of things a lot, because that's where there's more value.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Mindy. I put Mindy's LinkedIn profile there. So if you want to connect with Mindy, make sure and do that. Thanks again, Mindy, for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Outstanding. All right, this is John Chen, and here I just want to close up today. By the way, if you are watching this on one of these platforms, make sure and hit subscribe, share, like, drop a comment, let us know that you're there. Thank you for those who did drop comments today. Coming up next, too, again, I invited Mindy here to the Engaging Conference, The Secrets of Planning Engagement, on October 23rd through 25th, and you can get a free ticket here, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON for conference, featuring these amazing people. These people will join me, all having just under 2 hours to really share with you their secrets in depth about planning engaging conferences, summits, and masterclasses. You get VIP. You also get this amazing toolkit and 80 hours of recording. And the number one feature that came out today, Mindy, was that somebody called me, could not figure out a Zoom feature. I solved it in 3 minutes. You do get access, text and email access to me for a year if you're one of my VIPs. Meanwhile, make sure and subscribe to this episode at engagingvirtualmeetings.online. And if you want to be the next person here on Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just click the link and select interview, and we will see you here next time on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. This is John Chen, the author of the Amazon #1 hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. I personally want to say thank you for listening to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. It is my passion to help you eliminate bad virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with all of the latest ideas. Hey, I want to meet you. If you want to talk about a virtual meeting challenge, or if you want to be the next guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. That's engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, MEET, and find your best time to meet up. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you online.